Okay. So for instance, if we think about the question in terms of the meal that we've been sharing, is that on some level we surrender to the restaurant because we eat the food that they prepared for us under the assumption that it's not going to hurt us. That in fact it's going to enhance our life in some really positive way. So this involves a degree of surrender. And through the surrender we make ourselves vulnerable. And through the vulnerability we allow for the prospect of excitement, risk, exuberance. With every surrender, there is vulnerability. There's a giving over of power to somebody else in the interest of really of the unknown, of increasing predictability. Oftentimes I think people surrender and give up their power because they believe that by doing so they'll be better taken care of. That somebody's going to better attend to them than they'd be able to attend to themselves. Like when you go to a hospital because you have an operation, you surrender to basically the protocol of the hospital because you operate under the assumption that they're operating in your best interest. The way, I guess, on some level we do with the food that we just shared, we surrender to the meal. So surrender isn't always as exciting as it can be, but I think that surrender in every instance creates an opportunity for unpredictability and vulnerability, and that in itself is exciting. With every breakdown, restoration becomes an impossibility. I mean, insofar as everything is processual and changing all the time, then nothing is identical to itself. You can't ever restore something perfectly. And I might ask, why would you want to? Because I think it's much more empowering and exciting to think of our movement through the world as something that's mobile and fluctuating. You know, but you might say, well, I've had this really wonderful experience, I want to recreate it exactly. But I think that with exactitude, or the approximation of exactitude, comes the potential for tautology on one hand and entropy on the other one. Because things just can't be repeated over and over again without actually sort of coming apart. And I think that one of the potentially the most subversive forces of the natural world that we can have is the ability to repeat acts over and over again without breakdown. But why would breakdown then be positive if we think that the most powerful thing to do is to not break down? Well, the probability of that is really highly improbable. There not being any breakdown over time is metals sort of, the molecular structure of the metal breaks down, is the wood decomposes, as people do, as things, you know, live and die. So I think that on the very basic level, we know that pretty much everything on Earth gets recycled in some other form. So I think beginning from that awareness that everything fuels everything else, we can think of every breakdown then in terms of its potential to build something new. And so rather than look to restoration post-breakdown, I think it's more empowering to think maybe in terms of vanishing mediation, like I talked about earlier, how breakdown becomes a means by which other things are created. So every breakdown is an opportunity. If your relationship breaks down, then you have an opportunity to rebuild it in a new, more productive way, or you have the opportunity to develop other relationships. So I think that with every breakdown, there's opportunity. And this is different from saying that change happens through antagonism, like some post-Marxist thinkers argue, Laclau, Moves, Zizek, and others, that we need to have an antagonistic relationship with our environment in order to precipitate change. I think that change can happen through antagonism, but I think that it doesn't necessarily have to happen that way. And I think that to see breakdown as the result of antagonism is to undermine really the positive potential of breakdown. You know, things just naturally break down. You know, you go running for a long time, your muscles start to break down. That becomes an opportunity by which to experience other things, perhaps a sensation of all the chemicals that get released through what's often called the runner's high, or the ability of your body to get stronger so that it's more capable and able to endure more extensive periods of exertion. So these are just some of the ways in which I think that breakdown is positive.